Welcome to the Third Win channel. Today we're doing Season 1 episodes tier list of Zoey 101. And we recently did this for iCarly. We went through Season 1 to 6, so you can check that out if you're interested. But I asked you guys which show you wanted to see next, and I mentioned Zoey 101, Victorious, and Drake and Josh. I did say you can add some others, and I did get some requests like SpongeBob, but it didn't get enough votes. And basically, out of the astounding 31 votes, the winner is Zoey 101 by a good margin. So that's the show we're doing next. And yeah, let's get into the tier list. So my tiers are favorites and iconic, I mean, great, good, okay, and could skip. A slight change from the last series. I decided just to put the favorites and iconic in the same tier and add an okay tier. So yeah, for those who watched the last one. But let's get straight into it with our first episode. Welcome to PCA. First episode ever of Zoey 101. What can I say about this episode? So this is where we get to meet our, I'd say, two main characters in Chase and Zoey. We get this conversation with her and her father in the car with Dustin, and how this is now a girls' school as well as a boys' school, because it used to be a boys-only school. And we see Zoey arrive, and almost in this kind of completely movie style, Chase crashes into a flagpole when looking at Zoey for the first time and instantly falls in love. And then we see Zoey come over and say, "Are you okay?" And it's this perfect meeting point and her first friend at PCA. And Chase shows her to her room, introduces her to his friends. So without Chase, Zoey would have never probably. Oh, actually, she probably would have been friends with Nicole, and never mind, forget that. But how does this episode go? We have, yes, like I mentioned, Chase crashing into the flag, introductions with different characters in the show, and the big kind of storyline in this episode is basketball. So there's a boys basketball team, and Zoey thinks, hey, why should, I want to try out too. I think it's the tryouts in this episode, and she's like, I want to try it too. And then, guys are like, you're a girl though. And what this results in is a boys versus girls basketball game, which showcases Zoey's leadership skills as she puts together a team of pretty much non-basketball players. And her star player in this game was herself and Dana. And even though they lost by 1 point in the end, the girls ultimately won because the coach noticed these good players for the girls, and they're like, hey, come join the team. And Zoey accepts, and Dana says, I'll think about it. And then we never see basketball in the show again. Well, at least not for the girls. But where would I put this episode? I say it has to go in iconic. And it's probably one of my favorites as well. I think it's a great introduction to our main characters and our really kind of clumsy best friend in Chase. So let's move on to new roomies. This is where we get to meet more the rest of the cast. We kind of got to meet them in the first episode, but now we're focusing on her two roommates. That is Dana and Nicole. And what is the kind of main thing in this episode? Well, they are polar opposites, and they start to fight. One is using her hairbrush. The airbrush thing. When Dana wants to sleep. And the other way around, one doesn't like that the other is angry. And yeah, it ends up with Zoey getting mad at them for always bickering, and she moves out to live with Quinn, who does experiments on her because Quinn is kind of crazy, especially in the first season. And this all ends up with, Zoey being like, okay, maybe I need to make up with my old roommates, and eventually at the end of the episode she does. But a subplot of this episode is because Zoey's hanging out less with her, two friends, Dana and Nicole, she's hanging out more with Chase. And Logan tells Chase, hey, look, it's not so bad that they're fighting, because that means she's going to give more attention to you. And that gets into Chase's head, and he asks her out to a date. It's a one-on-one date, that's what Chase wants. He wants something romantic, but in the end, the girls make up, so it ends up being a 4-man watch party, and that kind of ruins Chase's plans. And this episode is where we start to see that kind of Chase finding ways to kind of get closer to Zoey. And what else? We get Dustin singing the Gummy Worm Blues. Those who know. But this episode, I'd place it probably as a great episode. I don't think it's the best episode ever. The writing is quite good, but it's not all the way up there, and I don't think it's quite iconic either. It can be a little annoying just watching the two girls bicker. Next, we got Webcam, which is man, I remember this episode so well. It's so Logan works for Sushi Rocks, and his grand plan is when he's delivering sushi, he delivers this bear with a webcam in it, and the girls are playing. I can't remember the like it was called something like Stress and Confessions or something like that. Basically, Truth or Dare. That's what they're playing, and Logan gets this all on tape on a webcam. And I mean, the day after, because he's not very smart, he starts to share all these secrets, and he starts to kind of say, "Oh, watch out, blah blah blah." I can't remember what the secrets were, but he exposes the secrets straight out to the girls' faces, so they're obviously gonna pick up on something being wrong. Oh, right. The first thing they think of is the girls are exposing the secrets, which is not the case, and then they make the connection with the bear, and they plan some kind of scheme to get Logan in trouble, and they do, and they tie to the principal. And what ends up happening is that Logan's been taking these sick days from Sushi Rocks, but this kind of appearance at the girls' dorm room means that he wasn't taking sick days, so he gets fired from Sushi Rocks, which is I'd say an okay punishment for this atrocity he committed. But this episode shows us Logan's character. It's kind of our introduction. It's like an introduction or a focus on him, on what he's like and what his intentions are. But this episode, I'm gonna put it in great. I thought this was very entertaining as an episode. Moving on, we have Defending Dustin. So Defending Dustin is where Dustin gets bullied, and Zoey be like, this is the first episode we really see Zoey trying like her relationship with her brother, and she is this ultimate defender of her brother. She loves her brother. She's a really good sister, and yeah, she's not having it, and she basically solves his bully problem for him. And of course, Dustin, being a younger brother, he wants to be like manly. He doesn't like this, so he asks Michael and Logan for advice. And yes, like it helps, like the whole standing up for yourself. But the real thing that did it was Zoey and her friends' scheme to make the janitor look like the headmaster and scare off the bully. But yeah, that's basically the episode. Dustin loses night, is in this distress about the bully, and Zoey solves his problem. And what else? There's like a dog subplot for the guys and the girls. It's okay, but yeah, I think this episode was good. I don't know. I don't love the Dustin focused episodes, if I'm completely honest. So yeah, it's just good. It's not bad though. Moving on, we have Prank Week, which is a really, really entertaining episode about how freshmen at this school, or I think first years, or I'm not quite sure what exactly the victims are, but for a week, the boys prank the freshmen, let's just say freshmen, and the girls decide to break the rules, which, the rules are we prank you, you don't prank us back, but the girls are like, nah, we're going to prank you back. And they get them back pretty good by what's the word? Desecrating the school's founder by their side of the campus. And of course, the son of the founder comes, and he sees this, and he asks who's responsible. Zoey was responsible for the plan. She takes the blame, and she is told that she will be expelled, and that girls will be the girls were no longer going to be allowed at the school after the semester. But then Zoey takes the blame, so she's the one to get expelled. But then the guys, and especially Logan, show their nice side, and they plan some kind of scheme to do the same, kind of make the founder of the school look even worse than the girls did. And they all take the blame for it and say, okay, you have to expel us all. And they save Zoey from getting expelled from the school. And this being Logan's plan shows that he does have a heart, and he does care about the girls being at the school and Zoey being his friend. This episode, super entertaining. Definitely favorites. You could argue this is an iconic episode as well. Moving on, we have Gen X, which is a competition to receive this new product, JetX, everyone has to come up with an advertisement for it, and we get this kind of competition between the guys and the girls. The guys opting for expensive production and kind of just a money-based approach with very traditional advertising, and the girls opted for more of a relatable, smart look on things, like how do people actually talk about things, and how do I convince people to buy this in a smart way, and they end up winning. And yes, they get the Gen X, and when Logan needs a ride to school, no, cause to class, because he's late, Zoe says, no, this is my Gen X, and they buzz off. JetX has become quite an iconic thing in the Zoey 101 world. Everyone wants a JetX, and yes, it's iconic. Is it one of my favorites? Probably as well, yeah. But it's definitely iconic. Moving on, we have The Play, which is an episode where Chase writes a play, basically. I don't know exactly if it was set up so that he would kiss Zoe, or if he wrote this before he met Zoe, but he basically writes a play where the two main characters at the end, boy girl, get to kiss, and he auditions with the part together with Zoe and hopes and is pretty sure he's going to get the part, and this is his grand plan. But Logan gets the part, and Chase does everything he can to either change the script or get the part, but in the end he can't. And yes, it's gonna be Logan to kiss Zoe, but and Zoe, when practicing with Logan, she actually, before it was always, oh, Logan's like a jerk, bad guy, but she kind of starts to see the parts of Logan that she likes. But right before they are to kiss, Logan says something that irritates Zoe, and it doesn't happen, and Chase is relieved. But that's pretty much the whole episode. But I don't know why these episodes where Chase has these plans to get with Zoe, especially in season 1, I really like, and that's why this is one of my favorites. Maybe it's not the best episode, but I really like this episode. There's a lot of character development here. Next, we have Quinn's date, which is I believe is our introduction to Mark Del Figolo. Quinn's obscure obsession with him starts here, and you could argue that that alone makes it iconic, but let me talk about this episode a little bit. So, the subplot of this episode is again about the dog, just as a side thing, which, has been done before, so that wasn't very exciting, but the rest of the episode, the girls kind of, Quinn's too embarrassed to ask him on a date, so Zoe goes over and asks him on a date, and he has a girlfriend, he's not gonna go on a date, so but they tell Quinn that yes, they can do the date, and obviously they can't, so they set it up so Quinn is on a quote unquote date with Mark, but Mark doesn't know that it's a date. And I mean, in short, the episode is all right. It's iconic for the fact that Mark Del Figolo is introduced, but I don't love this episode. I find it kind of boring, and yeah, it's okay. I respect it for the fact that it does kind of start this crazy relationship between Mark and Quinn, but I've always viewed that as a bit of a toxic relationship. Moving on, we have Spring Fling, which is where the girls try to get Drake Bell to perform at this year's Spring Fling, and they didn't know it costs $5,000, so they make a fundraiser to earn the money, and they do. But then they, no, how was it? The guy who was gonna offer them $5,000, they accidentally chip his car, and the repair costs $5,000, so they lose the $5,000. So Drake gets there and he's like, "Where's the money?" Or his manager does, and Drake notices that Zoe's made this nice shirt, this merch for him, and he's like, "Oh, can we use that design? We'll play the show for free if you give us the design," and that's a good compromise. And they get Drake Bell, which is, I think Drake Bell makes some pretty good music. I did on the second channel, I did a review of one of his albums, or two of his albums I've done. So, Third Wind Music, if you're wondering. So yeah, I think that's a great reward. I think he plays Hollywood Girl, decent song off his first album, and yeah, this is because Drake Bell's in it. I have to say this is one of my favorites. Although the episode itself probably deserves to be more and great, kind of like the play, but again, favorites are my favorites. This is my video. I can do whatever I want. Okay, moving on. Disc golf, number 11 out of 13. This episode is, I don't know if it was both the girls and the guys, but basically the gang wants to get out of gym class. It's boring. They don't like the teacher. So how do they get out of gym class? They find a loophole where if they join a sports team or if they create a club, they can get out of gym class. The coach isn't having it. They're like, why aren't you guys coming to gym? Oh, we're in disc golf. And he's like, okay, but you have to have won a game within 10 days, or you have to come back to gym class. And they get set up with this really scary team, the delinquent team or the juvie team or something. So that's scary. So they put together a team. They have one too many players. Nicole sits out on the bench. They basically come up to a position where they're all tied up, and it's last shot, like a tiebreaker shot, and Zoey invites off the bench Nicole, who is the worst on the team. But this shows the kind of, I don't know. She wanted to give her a chance. You know, she's always nice, and Nicole misses the shot, but the gang end up winning the game anyways because the prison gang right before the game ends, they devise a strategy where no, actually they don't. But when they went to go get Nicole's frisbee, that she threw super far away, they end up just running away. So the gang won the game by forfeit, and I mean, this is never brought up again, but we also don't see gym class ever again. So now apparently the girls play both, or Zoe plays both basketball and disc golf, but we never see her play either sport again. A little weird, but you know, it's a show, whatever. I think this episode's pretty great, entertaining. I love the sports ones. Yeah, it goes in great. Honestly, one of my favorites probably as well, but it's great. It's not as maybe not as character development rich as the ones above that I love so much. But let's move on to School Dance, which is definitely about character. And in the picture here, you can see Olivari, which Michael gets paired up with in the personality test. I feel bad for him because he was quite weird. But long story short, the seniors come up with a way to make the prom or school dance more interesting by making personality tests and matching you up with someone who's similar to you. So Dana and Logan get matched up, and Olivari and Michael and Nicole and a guy that is her basically counterpart except male, but she ends up finding him annoying, which is pretty funny. And then, most interestingly, Chase does everything he can to get the same answers as Zoey, and he basically, cheats on the test and figures out every single answer to the question and gets the same results as her. But the big problem is that he does succeed, but there's another guy that actually gets the exact same stuff as Zoey as well. So there's a bit of a conflict there. You know, you have Chase, who's actually not exactly like Zoey, but he cheats to get there, and then there's a guy who actually is exactly like Zoey, but actually, did he also cheat? Well, that's complicated, but the point is of the episode that everybody is a little unhappy with the people they end up with that are a lot like them, which I think is a very interesting commentary. Like, you don't want to be with the person who's exactly like you. Maybe that's a little too deep, but you know, in general, I love this episode. I'll talk about it in a different video probably, but it's a great episode and it's really entertaining, to be honest. There's just so many moments that I like here. But moving on, I just want to mention that we make a lot of Nickelodeon content. Oh, by the way, there is one more episode. Don't leave yet the video. Don't leave the video yet. But I'm just mentioning that we make a lot of Nickelodeon content. So make sure to subscribe if you like this. And check out our other videos. But let's move on to the last episode, which is Little Beach Party, which is a quite in my head, I'm not so familiar with the Zoey 101 fan base, but I think this one might be quite an iconic one in the fan base. Especially after the Nicole stuff came out, the controversy about the real life actors. I'm not gonna get into that, but basically in this episode, the gang are super tired after exams and they're super excited for this school hosted big party that they go to. But Quinn makes everyone fall asleep with one of her experiments after the exams, so they miss the bus to the big party. But they're okay, fine. Logan has money, so he'll get a taxi and we'll get there in time. But of course, Logan being Logan, he gets the the directions wrong, and they end up at some random place 100 miles out. And they can't really do anything. They don't have any cell service. So they decide, you know what, let's make a new tradition. We come here, we have fun. This is what we got. And that is basically the episode. Quinn puts together this contraption out of one of their phones and laptops or something, and they call someone from the school to pick them up at the end. But yeah, it's all right. I kind of wonder. if the writers kind of lost track halfway through the episode. They're like, so half the episode we're just gonna have fun on the beach. But no, this episode's important because it establishes the gang as a real friend group. We see problem solving, we see people bonding, we see some conflict. I think it's a good episode, but for me, is it a favorite? Do I think it's super entertaining? No, but I understand if someone argues that it should be iconic and it's an iconic episode from like Zoey 101 as a season finale as well. But for me, it's just great. I don't think I would rather watch this episode over disc golf. I think it's about equal. I think they deserve to be in the same place. But yeah, that's the video. We had nothing and could skip. I mean, that means that the season is probably amazing, or Zoey 101 is just amazing. I think uh, probably both. I think season 1 is a really solid season to begin with. I love the storylines. I love the teasing between Zoey and Chase that goes on basically through the whole show, but this is where it all starts. You could argue that this season, I'm not a huge fan of Dana. And we don't have Lola yet here, so I think things could get better. But like looking at these episodes, I do like most of these episodes, so I was actually surprised with how I rated these. But yeah, that's the video. I did make a tier list for you guys. I'll leave the link in the description if you want to do your own. Or I also want to ask you guys, do you prefer the old style I was doing with iCarly where I actually do a tier list and I move with my mouse? Or do you enjoy this more kind of picture style where I present things a little differently? So for those who watched the last series, please let me know. And otherwise, this has been the Third Win channel. Like I mentioned earlier, please subscribe. I appreciate it a lot if you guys enjoy this Nickelodeon content. And I'll see you guys probably tomorrow with a season 2 episodes for Zoey 101 tier list. Yeah, peace out, guys. Thanks for watching.